Hi folks, Pete Yetton here, Managing Director of Remarkable Law Consultancy Limited, a higher education strategist, immigration lawyer and specialist in the sector. Okay, so another vlog, and guess what topic has to be is the white paper. It came out on Monday. I've been looking at a lot of the narrative and they've come out, various authors and commentators have been talking about it. There seems to be a huge amount in terms of what it is, the content, but not necessarily a huge amount about some solutions. So we're going to touch on those solutions today as well during this vlog. What is quite clear though when I'm reading some of this narrative is that there are some things that I'm reading, the language that we're using and the tone we're using is quite inflammatory in terms of a call on the universities and sectors to do better. They call on compliance to work better with agent management. I mean, all this stuff goes on, and I can say this really hand on heart since 2013, working directly in the sector, and previous to that, representing the sector, and now obviously representing the sector as well. The amount of compliance and processes and linking that is done across all the sponsors that I've ever worked with, contracted with, and worked within is phenomenal. It's not something which is new. It's like Labour Party saying that they're going to start profiling certain students in terms of visa refusals. Well, that's not new. Okay, they've been profiling for a number of years now, and it's been done by previous governments. And we always know that there's been a high risk area of recruitment, which is absolutely aligned to the UK international education strategy. And this is the thing that I'm saying to a lot of clients right now and people who are contacting me, is that you've got to really be proud of your narrative of where you are recruiting from. If you are providing an education service to countries that are developing, because it's a target, the government has targeted this need for development and help through education. So all of a sudden now, because we have this very negative immigration rhetoric being agenda-based or politically led, it's sort of working against what we've set out to do from previous government and current government, because these governments are not disagreeing with each other in terms of what we need to do within our education strategy and helping these countries. But what's been now potentially proposed to the white paper is going to affect that. So the graduate routes obviously come down to 18 months. There's definitely going to be some form of fallout of students that aren't going to come in here for that amount of time. Equally, 18 months is a pretty good period of time to get some post-study work. So we might see a minor decline, not potentially up to 66% as it was when the post-study work was previously taken away by Theresa May. And that really was to do with employers' abuse of the system, because they were getting very good educated students, very focused students at lower levels of pay. And I feel this is very similar to what's been happening here. The thing to focus on the next minute and a half or so is the BCA metrics. BCA statistics changing and effectively getting tighter is not allowing us to go into that barometer of risk and how we manage risk throughout the year, where we know our visa refusal rate will go from sub 1% up to potentially 5 or 5.5, sometimes more, but then it'll come back down again if you're recruiting from high risk markets, because that's how risk can operate throughout the year. It's a concertina. We are now looking at sub 5%, 5% and below for visa refusals, and completion rates have changed as well. So what's massively important is this RAG system is going to be putting people and sponsors in breach all throughout the year. How's it going to be managed? Really interested to see how they are going to manage that, because it doesn't necessarily mean that the institution has got loose processes, they're not compliant and haven't got good due diligence between the recruitment areas, their agent network, their registry function, and then throughout the student journey. It won't mean that. So there's a lot of context and a lot of narrative that needs to be created before this becomes guidance and rules to state, what does this RAG system mean? We have to have, if there is a RAG system they're going to bring in, it needs to relate to some form of dialogue if there is a potential breach on any of the stats throughout the 12-month period. And to me, that's a call to bring back the Premium Account Service, because that was a fundamental bridge between sector and sponsor, which worked very well. And the people who worked at the UKVI were phenomenal individuals, and it was a very good relationship, and it allowed dialogue and not to hit the nuclear button and go straight to audit, revocation, suspension of license. Okay, so that's my big takeaway really, is the BCA. How you do that, look at the whole process, agent management, management of the student journey, put UKVI compliance teams at the center of the hub of decision making, and then calling people like me to help with that piece of going from reactive to proactive. Okay, so any more information, then contact me. I'll have more vlogs on this throughout the whole week, the next couple of weeks. Have a wonderful week. Take care.